Squeezing the Orange, written and read by Henry Blofield. Preface. I find the older I get, the more time I spend thinking back to my early life, which I suppose turned me into the person I have become. I have found also that by looking back on this period at the age of 73, I am able to look at it from a much more relaxed perspective than when I last wrote about it 15 years ago. The nasty bits don't hurt or matter as much as they did, and the best bits seem to have become even more fun. There is no point in trying to blame anyone but yourself. It is much better to throw your head back and have a thoroughly good laugh. As a result, maybe, I find my first 30-odd years much more interesting than the rest of it, when effectively the die has been cast. My early upbringing, strange by today's standards, my traditional education, which, after a homesick start, I enjoyed hugely, a nasty accident, Cambridge, the city, and then my two extraordinary lucky starts in both journalism and broadcasting have all left their mark. I have therefore written at some length about my early life, and tried to bring alive some of the more remarkable characters who had an influence on me as I started out. I have spent a life unashamedly in pursuit of fun, and this book is meant to be a reflection of that. I know I have been horribly self-indulgent and hedonistic, and altogether pretty selfish, but I hope also that I have communicated a fair measure of enjoyment and pleasure, and it is this with which I am trying to deal now. After describing how it all began, I decided not to go on in this vein, in case it developed into a boring chronology of cricket tours and matches. I have talked about our commentary box and its inhabitants, and one or two important occurrences along the way, but without, I hope, failing to see the funny side of it all. If I have developed a philosophy, it is ridiculously simple. I regard every day as an orange, from which I try and squeeze the very last drop of juice before moving on to tomorrow's. This book is an attempt to bring a glass or two of that delicious juice back to life, and hence the title. Chapter 1. Grizzle and Shelling Peas. According to my mother, who had drawn the short straw at the font when she was christened Grizzle, my birth was less eventful than my conception. Grizzle did not muck around. She was always earthy and to the point. When my wife and I were first married, she encouraged us to waste no time in starting a family, as she felt that delay might have a discouraging effect on procreation. I was lucky, she told me, because I bred the shake of a pair of pants, adding with emphasis, which was just as well, as it was all I ever got. That, I hope, was not entirely fair on Tom, my father, who may not have been one of Casanova's strongest competitors, but I am sure he had his moments. In any case, this particular pair of pants must have shaken with vigour, no doubt as part of the Christmas festivities in 1938, as late in the evening of the following 23rd of September, I made a swift and noisy entrance into this world. Tom will have been sitting in the drawing-room dealing with the whiskey and soda and the Times crossword puzzle, while Dr. Bennet conducted the events upstairs. I dare say this was not too arduous a production for him, for on another occasion Grizzle said, "I found that having babies was as easy as shelling peas. I can never understand what all the fuss is about." So that was that. Tom and Grizzle were fiercely Edwardian in their beliefs about bringing up children, and the three of us, Anthea was 10 years older than me, and John 7, had a tougher time of it than children have now. Of course, we were all born with whacking great silver spoons in our mouths, but I don't know how you can choose your parents. You've got to get along with what you've got. I'm sure Anthea and John had a stricter start to life than I did. In the 30s, nannies and nursery maids abounded, and Tom and Grizzle will have been even more remote figures for the other two than they were for me. I probably had an easier time of it, because during the war, Nanny had to go back home to Heacham in West Norfolk to look after her sick mother. As a result, Grizzle, with the help of any temporary nursery maid she could lay her hands on, had to roll up her sleeves and do much of the dirty work herself, so she and I had a closer relationship than she did with Anthea and John. I'm sure the love between parents and children was just as...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?